back to Opinions on Everything. I am Forbes, and I'm back with Keith, my best friend, and today we're joined by my other friend, Anna, who is also Keith's wife, and we are very excited to have them. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Forbes, for having us.
Thank you.
And I think Anna's brought some interesting topics to the table today, and she's going to start us off. What you got for us?
So, today I was thinking we could talk about college football and get y'all's thoughts on it, because I have mixed feelings about college football. I think that it's odd how much allegiance people have to college football teams, how much money is spent going into these programs, that I'm thinking to myself, man, if people cared as much about world hunger or water access or
Anything
poverty
that mattered in the
or
world?
literacy or anything of any value, as much as they care about this game, I think we would be in a different world. With that being said, I still love going to Auburn football games and eating snacks and wearing fun dresses with the Sims. But I have that thought at every game when I see how many people are in the stands, and I'm like,
This is absurd.
wow.
Every time we go to a game, because my dad has season tickets given to him by my mom for his birthday every year.
Yeah.
But we go as with my entire family, and my cousins and aunts and uncles are all there, and they have their tent where they have all the food, and everybody from Birmingham, which is where they're from, there, and it's like a big party, and in some ways it's a family reunion. So, and sometimes when I'm trying to justify what's happening, I treat it as a family reunion, and I get to go and see my aunts and uncles, which I see more during college football season than I do during holidays or anything else during the year. So it is fun that it's a family reunion, but that being said, when I'm walking actually to their tailgate through Auburn, I see all the people there, and I see all the beer and all the chicken minis and all the people and with makeup and trying to look great. I'm just like
They're dressed for the nines for a football game.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Dressed for the nines for a football game. I'm just like, this is absurd. And I say to my dad almost every time, like, how much money is being pumped into the city right now? How can the city function with like this flux? It's almost like when you fill up a dam, it's almost like you have a giant dam, and 99% of the year it is empty. Like there's nothing even in the lake, and then one time a year you use the dam.
It overflows,
and it overflows because nothing can hold all of these people in a city, and it's just like it's absurd, and it should be used for other things. But I come back, I justify it because it's my family. It's a time I get to spend with them, and as a father-son experience is fun.
So it should be noted we're in the Southeast, so college football is what we care about, but football in general is the problem. I mean, up in the Northeast and out West probably, NFL teams are the thing that people commit to and are so gung-ho about, but here it's Auburn, Georgia, Alabama, whatever school it is. And when you're talking about the city of Auburn, I went there for college, and they have, their tradition is to roll tumors after the games. They have a line in their budget for toilet paper removal. Like, that's just absurd that a city has to have that because of this tradition that is built on football. Mm-hmm. But it works, and it brings people in, and as Keith said, it probably pumps up the economy, though I'd argue that a lot of people bring their own food and drinks beforehand, and they're not actually helping Auburn all that much. But it's a mess. There's so much residue, trash, destruction left over by people coming in and tailgating and just leaving every week. And then we clean it up and we do it again.
Yep.
It's an amazing cycle.
And it's not to say that I think you can't have fun. Like, we're not those kinds of people that are such killjoys, but I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say that these are my thoughts that I have privately when I go to these games, and I just see how much people care.
Yeah.
Like, not even the games themselves, but just talking to people about their teams and how much they care about these people and these players they don't even know. You don't even play on this team.
And they start to yell at these kids who are in college.
Yeah,
right? They're like 18
like,
years old. Like, wow, you missed a field goal. Great. He's 18.
And when you're dead and gone, like,
yeah,
Does it matter
does
at all?
that football game really matter?
Yeah, I remember going to the Auburn LSU game, and the Auburn kicker missed 3 field goals in one game, and people were literally sending him death threats after the game, and they were making jokes. I saw jokes on online like he tried to the kicker tried to hang himself, but he couldn't kick the chair out from underneath him, and it was just like, that's so mean.
That's a terrible joke.
This is like an 18-year-old who missed a few kicks. He's probably down on his luck, but
yeah,
I'd have a hard time doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're making death threats at him. You literally send death threats to his house, and you make jokes, and it's just like, that's too far.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares that much when there are kids who are dying in other countries who don't need their death threats, because their death threat is
or in our country.
Yeah,
their threat is us ignoring them. It's just like ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
but we got loads of money to buy season tickets every year to go
Mhm.
watch Auburn be terrible every year.
Yeah.
except for national championship years.
Yeah. War Eagle.
I used to think it would be cool if we had some way of rallying together ways for people at the games to be generous. So, like, in the game, you could almost give, like, an offering or a tithe in a silly sense. But, like, you know, and you could compete with other schools to see which fans were the most generous, and all the money raised could go to different initiatives in the Southeast that are actually doing things. And I'm sure, you know, each school has their own foundation, and they probably do all sorts of things like that. But if the fans could get involved in something like that, I feel like it would be fun, and it would make it not feel so wasteful or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you could have just charity buckets, donation buckets sitting there as you're going in to, you're passing the concession stands. You just have them sitting right there. You drop some change in after you bought some beer and some hot dogs.
It would add up, I feel
Well,
like.
you can only buy beer at professional games. But
You can't buy beer at Auburn?
no.
Even in the alumni section?
Nope. They're putting in a new section that you can now.
Ooh.
They're adding onto the stadium.
Guess
They're
where
gonna
y'all
have,
are buying tickets.
like the Tiger Lounge or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've been to professional football games and college football games. And professional football games, there's a huge difference in between the two in the type of fan that's there. I don't know if anybody else has ever noticed that, but you get a lot, I don't know how bad this is going to sound, but you
more
get
aggressive.
more aggressive fans because there's alcohol. Normally, it's more kind of inner city people who haven't been to college at the professional football games, because the people who come to watch Auburn games, a lot of them went to Auburn or went to colleges, and their parents went to the college, and they have the background of college and a university.
Right.
But professional football, it's in inner big cities, and there's less privileged people at the games, so you get a lot more rowdy crowds. And I worked security at the Falcons Saints game, Falcons Panthers game, Falcons Tampa Bay, and I had to break up some fights. I had to get some people in there.
That's crazy.
Other security guards could help me, and it's a different environment. We get back to thinking that if we cared a lot more about things that mattered, this would be a better world. But you also have, I went to a conference, Georgia Organics conference this past week in Augusta, and the Falcons youth outreach program to get kids to play more and be healthier. They're a huge proponent in sponsoring farm to table and organic food and healthy food in kids' schools around Georgia.
Wow.
They sponsor something upwards of 100 different schools to have healthier meals.
That's awesome.
So I mean, that's one of the great things that Atlanta Falcons do through a youth to help youth in Georgia. But you don't hear about that unless I would have never known if I didn't go to this conference.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was a really interesting thing. And now that we're talking about this topic,
And I realize how hypocritical I am because I say all this, but yet Atlanta United Soccer is starting back soon, and I almost talked Keith into getting season tickets for that.
Are you serious?
It's like the same situation, but I mean, so I can't really I can't really speak too much because I get having a team that you really like, and
you're just biased against football.
And maybe it's just a football thing, because I think football is like a gladiator sport, and I think it's just really strange that the sport is. I know there's a lot of strategy and stuff, but you're just plowing into people over and over and over, and the damage that can cause. I just think it's really very dangerous. Yeah. Not that soccer isn't very dangerous, but there's a lot more finesse, and I just like it better, I think.
Yeah, all we've talked about so far is the pomp and circumstance of football. We haven't actually talked about the brute mentality of it and the actual hitting each other and the data we've found, and the people, our loved ones who have played it, who think that they may have had bigger problems in their life due to playing it. Yeah. Concussions and what that does to your brain, what that could do to early signs of dementia and whatnot. It's a real thing. It's a real problem, and I hate to think that we just put these 18-year-old kids who we know their names, but we don't care about their lives on the line just because we love a logo or a school so that we can come back to our work and brag that our team won.
Right.
It says nothing about our lives. It says nothing about our character. I joke all the time that I've never met an Alabama fan that I like. Well, that's not true. It's just fun to say, but
it's probably true.
It's a little true.
It's a little, but
no doubt.
well, probably true, yeah. But the pomp and circumstance is one thing, but then you get into these kids' lives who are putting their lives on the line just to make a lot of money one day and
hope to,
but then
the NFL doesn't take everybody, you know.
But that money could mean very little when you don't have the mind to use the money or
that's true.
To have a family or to live.
Yeah, the damage to your life could totally undercut the money.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's interesting. The other thing about college football, and I can only speak for Auburn, but I'm sure it's the same, is the university focuses so much on it because it is the biggest revenue driver. All these other sports get cut out, which is fine. You know, sports in general probably are a problem like we're talking about. But the scholastic part of the school, which is the whole reason for a university to exist, gets almost looked past because we spend all this money on football. You know, Auburn's got that new scoreboard that was several $1 million because
which is crazy.
It's obnoxious. It's unbelievable. And these coaches have millions and millions of dollar contracts, and we're paying players, I'm sure. Scam Newton, haha. But it's just it's the system where we pump all this money into a program to make us money so we can continue to pump money into the program. It doesn't. I'm sure the numbers would say it helps the university at the end and brings recognition and all that, and people come to the school to watch football, and that's crazy.
Right.
But it's true.
That's a problem with our...
Right, that's the culture, right?
Our culture.
And that doesn't mean it's a good thing. And so I just think that Auburn and probably most schools could do a better job of focusing on the school itself and improving the quality of the faculty and the teaching and the facilities rather than spending all this money on something that it's just a sport.
Yeah.
Just a dumb sport.
Yeah. And I totally get the benefits that you have from playing sports. I mean, Keith's whole family grew up playing sports. I think that the lessons that you learn and the character that people develop playing it are all worthy and of note, but there are just a few questions that I think we have to weigh when we're thinking about like player safety and just how much money we're spending and how much are we doing anything in our communities to help them other than supporting our college football team, which probably doesn't really do that much, I guess is my point.
I'm a huge proponent of sports due to it gives kids activity, exercise, it gives them recreation, team building. I think all that's super important, but when you put so much into one sport, it's overkill. Forbes and I play basketball usually twice a week. That's part of our exercise. It's fun. It's a good time. It's a way to spend time with friends. Me and my brother, we bond over sports as well. So there's a lot more than just it being pomp and circumstance, but there's engagement. There's family involved, and friendship involved when you bond over something. That is my favorite C.S. Lewis quote. Friendship starts when you're talking to someone and then they say, I didn't know that you were interested in that as well. I thought I was the only one. So if you bond over sports, it can make lasting friendships.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that aspect of sports, the team building, everything that goes into that. But there's no doubt in my mind that football, soccer in Europe, and baseball in San Francisco, it's all blown out of proportion, and there's just too much. And these people don't deserve to make $40 million a year, or basketball in Cleveland. They don't deserve that. That's not. They're great players, but there's a cultural disconnect that people care enough to make them worth $30-40 million.
Right.
They are not worth it, but the fact that our culture sees them as worth it and is willing to pay the money to have them be that much is to put them on a pedestal and look at them as idols and icons is a problem in general.
Yeah.
Your quote about friends, though, I mean, my worry is that our culture is way too revolving around sports. Too many people's only thing that connects them is sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
You listen to work Monday after the games. That's all people are talking about in the morning. And then after that, they don't talk again for the rest of the week unless they're talking up the next game.
Mm-hmm.
There's no connection or actual intimacy in the friendship. It's just top level, hey, we like sports together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and so I think that's a risk of that, for sure. Y'all have anything else you need to say about football?
I think I'm about footballed out. I think we hit on the money, we hit on the alcohol and food, and
excess, dangers of the sport.
Yeah.
Well, I think Anna had another topic too, and she's going to share it with us, hopefully. And so, she said it earlier, and she's now forgetting, of course, but she was talking about
what was my
music
topic?
On the radio. And why it is that we...
Glad you reminded me because I'm all revved up about this.
Right. Why we choose to listen to what we choose to listen to.
So, here's my thing about music on the radio. I love music on the radio. And I listen to music a lot. And there are many times in my day where Kendrick Lamar's song comes on and I'm just jamming on my way to work.
Of course.
But then I hear these other lame songs by...
Call them out.
Ariana Grande.
Oh, wow. You're going to say her name?
Just like these teeny bopper songs. And I think to myself, how is this all we have? I know that there are talented people writing music and making music, and there's just got to be gobs of it out there. But how is this what got picked on the radio? I just don't get it. I don't know how that process works, and it's very concerning to me that that's what gets picked.
I think most of us go through waves where we can't listen to music for a while because we're so down on what's happened, what's on the radio. We've heard it all. It's just like, if I hear Eminem's new song one more time, I'm going to literally lose myself in the moment.
I was in the car for 30 minutes Friday night, running, letting a friend's dog out, then running to the store. I heard the same song 3 times.
And it's not good.
And I wasn't even in the car for an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, if we're going to play these artists, fine. But can we mix it up a little? I don't think I should have to hear the same song back to back to back. And yes, I realize it's a frivolous thing, but it's just something that I've noticed day in and
you're
day
right.
out.
And then I think I can make better music than Ariana Grande. And you don't see me making $40 million.
Although she has a great voice.
Supposedly she's a good singer.
She sounds like she has some pipes on her, but I just don't like her music. It
all comes down to marketability, right? The reason these people are on the radio is because Ariana Grande is pretty, and she was on Nickelodeon, right? I think, and so she was already famous before she became a pop star.
Pretty much, that's how Selena Gomez was too. Even though I loved Selena Gomez,
another attractive woman, right?
Y'all dare get into JT, I'm gonna be frustrated.
Justin Timberlake,
he is a national treasure more than Nicolas Cage.
NSYNC was better than JT by himself. Just saying, but these people are famous because they're good looking, they're marketable, you can put them out there and people are like, wow, I want to be them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't matter what the music sounds like, it matters whether these people attract other people. And
Yeah.
so we get stuck in these ruts where we're just listening to Katy Perry and Ariana Grande and Miley Cyrus, and these are all women I'm choosing because I don't even listen to radio, so I don't know who's popular right now, and I can't continue. But
I'll tell you one person who's better than any of them. She sang at our wedding, Anna and I's wedding. Ivy Flynn has a better voice than any of them, I think.
Ivy Flynn, yeah.
I love Ivy. She should be a superstar.
But you don't see her getting paid anything to sing. But I think her voice is just as good as any of them.
And there's plenty of good music, it's just not on the radio, right? So if you really want to get into it, you got to go find this indie stuff and go out on Spotify and go find these playlists and try to dig deep, right?
Then you just turn into a hipster saying, I found that music first. I
Right.
don't even listen to the radio. How many times have I found the music, then it gets caught on the radio, and it's just like, please, cry me a river. We all say that, right? Oh, yeah, I was the first person to listen to car radio by 21 Pilots, right? I was
But
the
now
first
21
person.
Pilots is huge.
Yeah,
So,
now they're huge, and MTV loves them. So, yeah.
so what are you all revved up about? What do you want to change?
I guess I need to do a little bit of research. I don't really understand how it works, like how that music gets picked to be on the radio. Like, do you have to be rich basically to get a label to even see you? Like, what does the process look like, and why isn't there more diversity on the radio, I guess? And I don't know. I just don't know how it works.
From what I understand, it goes by views, and like with whether it be Spotify,
Views or plays or listens,
whoever gets
right?
most plays, like 30,000, 40,000, and then if you hit like 1 million plays, you're hitting the top 50 of the month. Or they have like weekly or monthly. If your music video or music gets played 1 million times, you're probably going to be in the top 10. If that happens in a week, or if like JT's new song, Man of the Woods, or his song probably got played so much right after his Super Bowl performance,
Right.
And now it's going to be in the top 25. It goes from nothing to top 25 because it got that many views. So therefore, the radio thinks that it should be played more, and it is.
Well, I wonder what interests me is, though, we hear these people, Ariana Grande, Katy Perry, they're coming on the radio because they were famous already, right?
Yeah.
They already have had success, so their new song is going to be on the radio. But the ones that interest me are like Portugal the Man, right? Y'all are all about that song. What is it? Feel something? Whatever the song is on the radio by them. How did that get on there? Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of an indie sort of hipstery rock band. How did they get famous?
That's what I mean.
So that song must have blown up somewhere.
Yeah.
And so some radio producer somewhere was like, hey, we got to play this. This is going to be hot stuff.
It's
And
kind of like a Home by Edward Sharpe and Magnetic Zeros.
yeah, they have no right being famous, but
Yeah,
so that was in a movie or it was
and
in a trailer.
We went to their concert just because of that song.
Exactly.
And then I liked some of their other music, but they blew up because of that one song. Or you have the one-hit wonders that blow up. But how did that song get anywhere in the first place? Did they like write one good song and it's like their golden ticket to look at Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory of music?
Yeah.
And it's just like you can't do anything else. You can't be like an Aerosmith. Why can't there be a good Aerosmith again, where every song is just great? Well, or Forbes said the other day, Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Every song in their album is just gold.
It's at least songwriting gold, or it's like audibly gold, but it's not popular gold. It's not something. So that's where the other risk is. Pop music is such a non-diverse blend of music because they find what works, and it's this electronic music. It's this poppy kind of voice, this kind of high and fun, and it sounds good, but it's electronically modified most of the time. They're not very good singers, and they have a team of writers. Like the most famous example on the internet is Justin Bieber's Baby. They talk about how that took 12 writers to write that song, and he just says baby like 12 times in a row, right? But then Bohemian Rhapsody, the Queen classic, Freddie Mercury wrote that by himself. Like, how is that? How do we get from there to there? It's just amazing.
Exactly.
We just want it easier and done more poppy.
Yeah. So that's the terribleness of the radio. I don't listen to it.
And does anyone want to get into country music and the monstrosity that is?
Gosh, it is awful.
Let's
go ahead and bash country a little
What's
bit.
the song that we heard the other day on the way home, and we were just like, how is this a real song?
So I brought this up in my work.
Your new work? Where you
My
work
work.
on a farm?
No, not my new farm work, but my old work where I worked at a clinic, a medical clinic, a nonprofit. And we live in the southeast, and most people there are country and do not share our views on a lot of different, definitely music topics. So I'm in the middle of like 3 different people, and I say three different girls, and I say, guys, I don't know if y'all have heard this song. I'm sorry if I offend anyone. I don't think I will though.
You've already offended me by calling them guys. So continue.
Well, my bad. So I said, I heard this song on the radio, and it said, you name the babies, and I'll name the dogs. and I got like crickets out of everyone around there, and then like after like 5 seconds, I'm looking around like, oh no,
y'all love this song.
You love this song.
They loved this
and
song.
they said, I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm fine with that. Like, you name the babies, and I'll name the dogs. Like, that's just the way it is. I'm like, no, say it ain't so.
That's
and they're
awful.
like, yeah, Blake Shelton. I'm like, oh no. Is he the one that sings a song about going to a dentist and getting Novocaine in his mouth?
Does he? I don't know.
He sings something like, yeah, it was just horrible.
We stumbled upon this, like we were flipping through the radio and
Trying to get away from your Ariana Grande.
yeah, just trying to mix it up a little, and we land on this song, and my natural, whenever I hit on the country station, I immediately click the
Get
next
away,
button,
right,
like
yeah,
I
please.
just flee immediately. But I just stopped to linger, and I said, Keith, let's just listen to this. Let's just really sit and melt into this.
Let's
and
experience this moment.
Let's experience this song and really listen to it. And it was just as horrifying as I expected the second we heard it.
I think I had a nightmare a few days later, like, of like me watching a couple that's country as can be, like, and like pointing at babies and naming them, the woman and the guy behind her with his back to her, pointing at dogs, naming them. I'm like, this is horrible. I don't know what's more broken, college football or country music.
Well, they're pretty much synonymous. So
yeah, they are.
Why not?
Yeah, you either listen to country music or
Rap.
hard rap.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
like, what could be any worse, right? So, yeah, that's my rail on country music.
They're all the same. It's really awful. I can't stand when my family, who loves country, of course, is like, Forbes, you gotta listen to this song. You're gonna love it. I promise. This one's really right up your alley.
Yeah.
And just because they say God in there at some point, they're
Yeah.
like, you're gonna love it. And it's never a song I want to hear.
You know, the only exception I have that I will always love, and Keith does not understand
Don't.
this,
If you say
is
Florida Georgia Line, you're out of here.
barf.
Let me go ahead and cut you off and say it's the Dixie Chicks.
It's the Dixie
She
Chicks.
loves the Dixie Chicks, too.
I love
I can't
the
stand
Dixie
them, but-
I
Chicks.
think it's probably because of her liberal background, their entire album bashing Bush. Which Bush does.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay, it's not that.
No.
So why do you
Their
love Dixie
songs are
Chicks?
just fun, woman power. They're sassy. I grew up listening to them, so it's not just that I like their music. They're just songs that I grew up listening to with my sisters.
Nostalgia.
remember-
We're gonna have to have that as a topic someday.
I know. I would just jam out to Dixie Chicks on the couch with Mary Catherine at my dad's house, and I also jam out to, embarrassingly enough, Martina McBride. This one's for the girls,
This
which
one's
was
for the girls, yeah.
Let me just say, at least
a hot one.
none
Girl
of those
power, for sure.
None of those songs have the words tailgate, dip spinner, or dip. In
Do
them.
they usually say dip in country songs?
Yes.
They
What's
do?
the song? Chew
We
tobacco,
wouldn't
chew
know.
tobacco.
I
It
no
says
idea.
chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco,
Oh
spit.
yeah, yes,
No way.
yes.
Yeah,
It
there's a
does.
song
That
says,
can't exist.
I'm sure that's Blake Shelton too, or Luke Bryan, or whatever.
These
Yes,
pretty
I
boys
know
who
that
are
song.
somehow country.
Yeah. And then you get like a rapping country music star like Sam Hunt.
Yeah.
It's not country, that's pop.
We got Keith Urban, the Australian, coming in.
Yeah, like,
gosh, he's
Give
gorgeous
me your
though.
sweater and all your problems made of leather or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, it's all garbage. The only after
Tim McGraw,
Tim McGraw.
Live Like You Were Dying album.
Because
It's all downhill from
everything
there.
in that is just like that's like a nostalgia album. He's losing his dad or his wife or his kids. Like I can get behind that. You had a hard time country music, but when it's about
Even Garth Brooks, I can get behind. Like that's a nostalgia one
George
too.
Strait,
for me.
sure.
Yeah,
There's some
Johnny
good-
Cash. Like those are different.
give me those.
Yeah.
Give me 3 Wooden Crosses if you're going to give me any of it. I can sing along to any of those, but when you're just talking about tailgates, women in sundresses, and beers, and chew tobacco,
Chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew, or spit.
yeah.
Well, what's fascinating to me is this rolls into that report I was talking about before. there was a study I read yesterday that said your music tastes are set. I think it was for girls between 11 and 14, and for guys 13 to 16. And so the reason we like the songs we like is not, maybe we just hate modern music because we're old now and we don't listen. We're not open to new things. We're still like, oh man, 3 Days Grace back in the day was the real stuff. You know,
you're
Sugar,
right.
we're going down. Fall Out Boy, let's go. But we can't. Maybe we're just haters and we don't actually.
Maybe we're just old haters.
And the reason we like old country is just because it's old. And it's not actually because it was better. It probably is. I'd still argue it is because I'm a sentimental person who thinks that everything I like is right. But
the second I hear someone say that Luke Bryan or Florida Georgia Line is good, I negate everything they say. It is all
they're not my friends anymore, that's for
futile
sure.
and unimportant. They have no personality.
Except for our sweet nephew Connor.
Except for our sweet nephew Connor, because
he's our rock star.
He was really nice.
He's 9.
Yeah, I liked him.
And we love him.
And we love him. But besides that, Florida Georgia Line is the epitome of horrible music.
Yeah, it's a disaster. So I think that'll close up radio. And I think, Keith, you had a topic you want to bring to the table?
Yeah. So the topic I was bringing is, in order to fix the problems we have to change our thinking.
Okay.
So you think about any problem that has been presented in the last, let's just say, 4,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
In order to fix it, you have to change your thinking, because you can't use the same thinking that gets you into a mess to get you out of it.
Right.
The best topic, or the best example I have, is plastic in our oceans. That's a hot button topic for me. You can't use ease and convenience as the things that got us into it. Plastic is easy and convenient, and it's easier and convenient just to throw it away. You can't think that the solution will be easy and convenient as well. I was talking to someone in my office when I worked at a medical clinic, and they said, yeah, but I think that we're going to invent something that's going to just fix it for us. Like, there's going to be a big arm that goes over the ocean and grabs it all, or we can have like a plastic magnet or something like that. I said,
perfect.
And I looked at him and I said, I said basically the quote, or what I said, you can't expect the same thinking that got you into this problem to get us out of it.
Right.
So basically, I don't know if that's a quote by anyone. Surely it is, but like you can't expect to solve something, or it goes back to I think it's Albert Einstein, the definition of insanity is doing something over and over again and expecting it to get different results. Mm-hmm. You can't have mundane thinking or outdated thinking that cause problems to fix something. You can't keep trying to fix it the same way.
Right.
So I think that we need to fix things in innovative new ways, and sometimes it's not even looking to the future, but it's looking to the past and seeing what worked. Mm-hmm. Obviously, in my life, another hot button topic is pesticides and herbicides. They have killed our soil, or the foundation for life on Earth. If we kill our soil, we kill all of humans and every animal here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In desertification, if you looked at back to the Dust Bowl back in 1930s or 1920s, 1930s, when New York City was covered with dust, that was because all the soil that was over the Great Plains or Kansas and everywhere like that was basically erosion wiped it all away, and it wasn't soil anymore. The grasses. They said that when the first pioneers went across the grasslands, there was grass at least 8 feet tall in some parts because the soil was so thick and good that it could hold water and grow these plants better. But we've destroyed that. So the solution to it isn't spraying better herbicides or pesticides. It's looking back to the past and seeing what caused this ground to be so good.
Right.
What was the way that it was good? And my thought is that, well, I don't know if this is a good thought, but like the reason that it was so good is because there were so many animals using it, like buffalo would. There was a natural ecosystem that worked. The buffalo ate the grass, then they pooped in the grass, stomped on it, and put the carbon,
fertilized it,
sequestered it back into the soil. So how can we replicate that? Because I think some of the best solutions to our problems are looking to see how the environment has a solution to the problem.
Right.
So literally take away from the environment, take away from the way that whatever deity you believe in, God, the way that God dealt with it. And I think that the way God's going to deal with climate change or carbon sequestration, whatever the word is I'm trying to think of. Sequestration is by is we have to use the animals right and we have to use the land right. We can't just say we're going to grab carbon out of the sky and put it in the ground. That's not really feasible. Or the solution would be to escape this planet to another planet. That is so not feasible. And I think that gets into one of Anna's quotes that you were saying today.
Yeah.
That you can't look for any break that you have, or anytime you take a break, you're relying on somebody else.
Yeah.
So anytime you try to get the easy way out, someone else has to pay for it. Whether you drop something and break it right after you bought it, and you return it and say this was broken. Say you do it at Lowe's, and you return it and you say this was broken. You sold it to me broken. Yeah, you're not out, and you can't see the person who is out the money, but it's a big company, and it's still somebody paid for that.
Right.
It just, you can't really reap the benefit, and you're hiding it inside of a bigger thing. But any time that you use a machine to spin your cloth, there's a bigger use, or you use some machine drill to drill in a hole. There's more electricity than just what you had that goes into it. So I think that as a culture and as humans, we have to take into account everything that we use and the actual energy that goes into using. Now, whether it be oil in a electric saw, or driving a car, or whatever it is.
I think people are always naturally wanting to think of a way to fix something without them having to put any sweat equity to it, or without them having to change.
Sacrifice at all.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, for me, Keith and I talk a lot about intentional living. Does that look perfect? No. You know, and when we share that with people, they immediately try to throw daggers. Oh, you're vegan? Well, isn't that a leather bag? You know, well, it's 80-20, right? If I can get it right 80% of the time, that's pretty good. If we have an issue with plastic, stop using it. Refuse your straw at the restaurant. Stop using plastic. You know, if I have an issue with the fossil fuel industry, maybe I try to ride my bike to work twice a week. That's a reasonable goal.
Yeah.
2 times a week, which I try to do for the last year, that adds up. You know, yeah. Keith rode his bike to work every single day, and that's not to say oh, look at Keith, he rode his bike every day, but it's at some point we have to take ownership for what we're contributing, and we can't, like he said, we just can't settle and think that the way that we've been doing things is good enough, or that there's going to be some saving grace at the end of it. And especially I find this really, really unsettling in the Christian community, where we remove ourselves from any responsibility, and we play the God card of, well, God is sovereign, God will provide, God will this, God will that. Yeah, he will, but he uses his people to make change. He uses his people to speak out against injustice and against excess and exploiting people and exploiting products, exploiting our environment. So that's something that is kind of off topic, but it riles me up a little bit when I hear Christians throw that in response to any sort of environmental concern or even health concern, or you've treated your body like a garbage dump for your whole life, but yet at the end we say, and I would do the same thing if I had a sick family member, we say it's in God's hands, God will provide, God will take care of it. Well, yeah, I mean, God is sovereign and God does love his people, but at some point we are still responsible for our actions.
If God throws you a life buoy to save your life in the middle of the ocean, you have to grab on. You can't say, oh, there's a buoy there, but God's going to save me. Maybe God did throw you the life buoy, or he did send a helicopter to save you out of the middle of the ocean when you're drowning. You can't just say God's going to save me or get on to him. Sometimes you have to eat better, or sometimes you have to ride your bike in order to have people to use your own energy to create the future that you want to see. I want to see a connective city that we live in, more connectivity, and foster more civil engagement in our community. And I think that one way to do that is by riding my bike. And that I am the one bike in this sea of motorized, oil-driven, ExxonMobil, water-wasting, fracking industry.
We like adjectives.
He likes bikes, too.
I like bikes. So I think that one way that I try to create the future I want to see is by living intentionally. And I don't want to use the same mundane thinking that is causing water waste to solve water waste. So
it gets back to unintended consequences, right? We don't think things through. I read a book on it, and I think I talked to you about it. It was on climate change, and some scientists got together, and they actually came up with a plan, a technology fix for the current pollutants in the air, right? They said, we'll build a pipe all the way up above the cloud level and straight up suck out the pollutants. And it would actually work, hypothetically. But then they're like, but we can't do this because, first off, who's going to pay for it? But second, what happens if that impacts the environment in another way, right? You can't just short-term thinking, technology fixes everything. We're just going to build some tool that's going to fix it all. But it could destroy anything else. It could make it too cold or too hot. It could do all sorts of things. But
we're always looking for solutions to our laziness so we can keep being lazy.
Yeah.
But all it takes is hard work. And we're here to work hard. I mean, I think that God has sent us here to work hard and to do something, not just potato chip it up on a couch.
I love
potato chips.
I love potato chips too. Maybe I'm talking to the wrong crowd here.
You talk to the biggest chip fans in the world over here.
Yeah.
We're not going to back you up on that.
Well, we can still eat Lay's potato chips.
Baked Lay's.
Baked Lay's.
To be clear, we're healthy.
And Ruffles. Just not Cheetos, right? Just not Cheetos. But yeah, it comes back to we're trying to solve these problems and still be lazy at the same time. You can't be lazy and solve the problems.
And as our population grows, it gets easier and easier to, as Jimmy said, pass the buck this morning, right? Like, someone else will do it. It's the whole witness mentality, where they talk about crimes, where if there's a group of people watching something terrible happen, no one's going to report it because they're all assuming the person next to them is going to do it.
Right.
And so it's like y'all living intentionally, that's good because everybody else is just like, someone else will do it. Someone else will fix it. And so it's admirable. It's a good thing.
And I think, too, like, Keith and I have this discussion a lot. What if no one else cares about the things that we care about? Or what if no one else ever rides their bike to work in Columbus, Georgia? Which I know a few people that do. And I told Keith it reminded me of The Unsettlers and how he talks about the book of The Unsettlers. How we have to use our energy to create the world that we want to see. And if that means me riding my bike to work is the world that I want to see. And that's the world that I want to be a part of. And it's a simpler, more free way to live. And that may mean that I may die, and that's just the way it was. It was just me cruising along 13th Street. But you
did what was in your heart and what you felt was right.
Right. And that's enough for me,
Now, you had an example you wanted to bring up about the 13th Street Bridge, right?
Oh, yeah.
Was that related?
Yeah, I just think I was really thankful that our city council voted to pass. There's this strip in our city on 13th Street where we have this neighborhood feel of a street that you cruise up to almost a highway. It's like 6 lanes of traffic that then goes back down to four lanes of traffic when you hit uptown.
It goes from a park area, a living residential park area, to a 6-lane bridge road to a downtown.
And then back over to another bridge to get it over.
Right.
And then to another bridge into the downtown of another city.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just, it goes from 35 to 65 to 25 to 65 to 25. And you're just like,
and it's
what's
not
happening?
even, you know,
is it conducive?
The reason that there's that ridiculous part of a highway strip in the middle of that 13th Street Bridge is it was residual from a project that never took off in the 80s. There was supposed to be a huge highway that blew through that area. It never happened. So now we have this odd little space of really fast-paced traffic, and it just doesn't make sense when that bridge really should be, the traffic should be slowed down, and it should be connecting these really vibrant spaces between, you know, we've got Uptown and we've got Midtown. And what the city council passed was basically that we're going to repave that to fewer lanes, and it's going to slow the traffic down. And there's been data to back it up. There have been tests done to show it can handle it. There's not even enough traffic there to constitute that amount of lanes. And it's all fine. It's all good. It makes sense. But, you know, there were some city councilors who were very adamant that taking those lanes away would just slow the traffic down. And what a fear that people would have to slow down. And have you been to Uptown, and have you seen when anyone has to pull out, you have to wait to get a parking spot? And it's just, I was proud of one of the counselors who chimed up at the end and basically said, you know, this isn't working for us. This fast-paced excess lanes in this part of town doesn't make sense. We have such an economically stagnant piece of that community. There's no life there. There's no businesses. They can't support themselves there because of the traffic. It's too fast. Pedestrians aren't going to walk there. Bicyclists don't want to bike there. It's not working, period. And so they voted yes to repave it, and I was so pumped to hear that. And that's what he said. He was like, you know, this isn't working. Let's take a chance and let's see if it helps. So
let's try to solve the problem by thinking differently, right?
I mean,
not thinking, hey, we could maybe fix the traffic problem by adding more lanes, which was
right.
probably the original thinking. Let's fix it by slowing it down and trying to give bikes and pedestrians an opportunity.
Right.
Yeah. Get less people in cars, and it's well known that foot traffic and pedal traffic is a lot better in spearing on business. And if you're on foot or on a bike, you're more inclined to walk inside of a shop, a flower shop, or a shop that's along that strip. And that used to be a commercial strip right there on 13th Street. So it's just thinking that we can slow down the traffic, get more people out of cars and onto foot and bike coming from this residential area into the downtown lively area, and we can have businesses set up on that street instead of just having people in their own personal boxes going 60 across a row. We can make something beautiful and more sustainable, and we can bolster our own economy. And in the meantime, it's just the old way of thinking is to move fast and just get people through there, but the new way of thinking is hopefully for millennials like us is to slow it down to make it better for everybody.
Well, I think for our city, I was proud that they said yes. I mean, we know Columbus 2025 is one of their pillars is talented and educated people attracting and retaining talent. We know that we have to attract and retain talent. We know that millennials look at cities based on where they want to live, and then they find a job where they want to live. So if we know that, and we know that millennials want to live in cities where they can bike and walk to places, and they may not necessarily have to have a car, then we need to be thinking like that. And the 6 lanes of traffic in one little spot between connecting Uptown and Midtown is just not going to cut it. And I think that I think by voting yes to that, not to mention it was a free opportunity by GDOT, so our city doesn't have to pay anything for it. So it was a little hysterical that there was that much debate going on a free opportunity like
Georgia
that.
Department of Transportation?
Yes.
Why are they paying for it?
I actually don't know. They're also doing some other things on Macon Road.
That definitely needs to work.
Yeah, that it's going to be great for Macon Road. I don't know why they started with it or why they presented it to us, but I'm glad that they did, because
I'm guessing they knew they messed up.
They were going to repave it anyway, but we kind of had the opportunity to change it if we wanted to, and now was the time, at least for on 13th Street where we've recently added some bike lanes and things like that. It was already going to be done,
right?
So why not add some bike lanes? Why not make it a little bit more?
And that's the road that I take to go downtown now, is over that 13th Street bridge, so cars would just hawk me down going 60 over that bridge, and I'd have to hop up on the sidewalk on a bridge, and it just wasn't safe for anybody. It wasn't pedestrian or bike friendly, and yeah, it's just a scary place to be. And now that's going to be the road that I take, and it will be friendly, and hopefully more people will see that it's a place that you can ride and be safe and out of danger.
I'm just imagining, like, in a few years from now, that bridge will be such a cool destination. You know, what if it expands on the sides and people can have these little workstations on the bridge and things like that. I've seen I don't know, I think my boss sent me a picture of this in some cities on their bridges. People set up their laptops and they can like work on them, and I mean, what if it's just a vibrant place where it's more of a you've arrived when you get to the bridge as opposed to we're passing through.
Yeah, we're going over something.
So I think Columbus has got some cool things.
I'm sure shocked they voted that way. That's forward thinking for us.
I was pretty scared at first. It didn't seem like it was going well, but
I thought they would expand it to 8 lanes.
Seriously.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, I'm sure people in other cities know of bridges that are just mundane and don't need to be the way they are, or roads that are just no one likes to ride on them because they're just cluttered. They're 4 lanes and you're almost on the curb every time you ride on them, or almost hitting oncoming traffic. And a lot of times traffic actually works better if you turn it into 2 lanes, and then people find other ways around it to not just have that one road be the only way to travel. It diversifies the traffic, or moves into other areas and other places, and can be better and get people out of cars. And
I've recently been learning that too, that it's one of the fears with slowing traffic down there is people would say, we're going to have to go a different way. We're going to have to branch out. Well, you know, experts are telling us that's good. There should be, if there are multiple ways to get somewhere, like you said, diversify the traffic. And that's one of the cool things about Columbus. I feel like you can get places by a lot of different ways for the most part. Not in some instances.
Yeah, not always.
But, you know, that's good. That shouldn't be our fear for not doing it. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyhow.
That was good. Thank you for sharing.
That's my thoughts.
So, we've hit 53 minutes. Would y'all like to do another topic? I've got one if you're interested, but if you need to go, then we can
hit us with it.
Let's talk about the military. Let's go big here.
Oh, go big or go home.
I'm interested in y'all's opinion on the U.S. military and the size of it. And I'm going to start with some quick little stats. I did some numbers. So back in 2015, our budget was $1.11 trillion. Right? That's good. The military was 54% of that, at $600 billion. 598.5. So that's a lot of money. And if you, let's say, 1 year we have $711 billion on the military. That's bigger than the $695 billion of China, Russia, UK, France, Japan, India, Saudi Arabia, Germany, Brazil, Italy, South Korea, Australia, and Canada's militaries combined. Right?
Wow.
That makes your jaw kind of drop.
Right. We have 800 military bases in more than 70 countries around the world. And we currently have in our military active 1.4 million people employed in the military. America's population is what, 375 now? Around there? 375 million? So, is it too big? I'd argue yes. I think so. If we go back and we look at that chart, food and agriculture, $13 billion. That was what was spent. 598 was the military. Social Security, $29 billion. Science, $29 billion. Energy and environment, $39 billion. there's so many other things we could work on, right? So many other things we could expand and grow.
Expand our culture instead of military, which is brute force and
intimidation factor.
It's an intimidation factor. I even talked to somebody yesterday at the Georgia Organics conference who was a livestock herder for cattle, and he used GMOs and pesticides and herbicides. And his first word when I was talking to him, he said about the military, he said, "Well, we're the big boys. We're the big boys on campus.
It's true.
We're big. We're America." I'm like, oh gosh, you kind of epitomize everything that people think of when they look at us. A big guy who herds cattle, uses destructive means to do it, to destroy the land and the environment, and then calls ourselves the biggest and the best. The big boys, the big bullies, because we are the big bullies.
We are.
And then we spend $500 billion pumping our chest up because we're the big boys, no one can take us. And then when somebody else says that they have a nuclear weapon, our president, for goodness sakes, tweets out, "Yeah, but we have a bigger button and ours actually works." Like, how much more pompous and arrogant can you be?
Right.
Like, to say, like,
it's aggressive for the sake of being aggressive.
Yeah, it's like, I think that's like everything. That one comment kind of goes against every good way of thinking I know. Like, the way that Martin Luther King taught, the way that Gandhi taught, the way that Jesus taught. He went away with everything, with being arrogant, pompous, and rude. Rude, putting everybody down. And it's just that over and over again. And I don't know how you could justify that much military spending, $500 billion flipping dollars, when you have people in this country who are hurting, suffering every day, because of the way we choose to spend our money.
And I think, we have 1.4, 1.2, I'm saying different numbers, million people in the U.S. military. We could cut our spending, right? Which was, what did I tell you? $595. We could cut that drastically while still employing all these people. We're spending the billions not on the people themselves, because I know people worry, like, if we shrink the military, we're not supporting our troops, we're not employing and giving jobs to all these people who may not have another option.
Right.
It's 0.5% of the U.S. population is in the military, right? That's crazy.
Wow.
But if we cut that the funding, that doesn't mean we have to cut jobs necessarily. That just means we could cut, let's buy one less tank, because we have we live near Fort Benning, right? Y'all drive past that road, you just see these rows of tanks and Bradleys and all sorts of things just sitting there.
Yeah,
they're not getting used right now. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but we just have all this excess.
Yeah, because
we're constantly spending money on new and better military equipment.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, I think that a lot of it goes into trying to protect our greed and protect our comfort of Americans, and the fact that we won't oil, so we are going to protect our oil rigs in Saudi Arabia, and we go to war just for oil, and it's just these oil wars that are needless, and the only thing that they are helping is our convenience and our way of life, which our way of life can change and everyone will be fine. It's almost like a abundant way of life that doesn't need to be that way.
Right.
So we're fighting for our convenience and for our lifestyle, which it's too much anyways. So then you get into this giant military with all these bases and spending so much money and trying to be the big boy on campus, and it's just not needed. If you took all that away and tried to spend that money on feeding people or creating different new jobs and different enterprises that weren't military,
so aggressive, so negative almost. Yeah, we do a lot of good, or at least we say we do with our military, but how much good are we actually doing by being in these countries? Hasn't really panned out for Afghanistan. That's still running, like the longest war in history, they say. And it's 14 years now. I mean, it's a crazy long time. 24 years, I forget.
Yeah.
And this chart I'm looking at here says the military personnel is $135 billion of that budget. So out of $600 billion, if we just wanted to keep the people employed, we could do it for a fraction of it.
Right.
And and the operations and maintenance is $200 billion. We could probably reduce that. Procurement, buying new stuff, $90 billion. Research development, $64 billion. There's so much that we're doing that is so protectionist. I know we're thinking this is our defense, this is how we keep everyone from attacking us, but who does it actually work?
Yeah.
Does it intimidate terrorists at all? Because terrorist attacks aren't stopped by our military. They might be stopped by our FBI, CIA, whatever it is. Maybe they are, but our big military does not defend us from a lone bomber. That's not how this works. Our military is for war. It is for occupying countries. It is for fighting other armies. It is not meant to stop a lone attack.
Right.
So what good does it actually do from a defense standpoint?
Yeah.
No,
it intimidates other countries, but as I just said, no other country has a military close to our size. So even if we cut it in half, we're still ready. We're still more than ready to fight any other country who decided, hey, let's go to war against the U.S.
And the fact that you named all those countries and we have more than all of them combined.
It's crazy.
And the only one with a really bad terrorist incident recently was France.
Yeah, and they're pretty small.
France and London. When you look at Sweden, what's their budget?
Not even on here.
Not even on here. And it's just like it's.
When's the last time someone attacked Sweden?
Yeah, it's asinine. Our budget for military, and it just it feeds into these politicians feed into the American ideology that we have to have bigger, better military. And you say we don't need that much money, and then someone says, but yeah, we do. We need to be strong and have our military strong, and just in case someone attacks. Like, we do, but not that strong. And I feel like it all comes into a place of we keep saying these terrorists, and we need to defend against terrorists, but people in other countries see us as terrorists to their country, and they see us fighting anti-terrorism as terrorism in itself. And the predator strikes that Obama called that killed horrible men who were doing bad things. It also killed women and children in their houses who weren't doing bad things. And yes, you can make the point that you're killing this one man and his family to save other people, but is that ethical to spy on somebody illegally and then bomb innocent children, innocent women, and then one bad man? Is that ethical? And I'd say no.
Yeah,
I'd say it's not. And I'd say that's the type of problem that we have. And I read a book, and a girl who was bombed by a Predator missile, her dad was by her bed and saying, is this justice, America? If this is the justice that you're bringing to our country, then we don't want your justice. Yeah. Because his daughter was wrongfully bombed, and shrapnel was strapped to her body. And it's just, that's a living life. And then we have this military that we try to bolster, and we're so proud of it. We're so proud we can bomb these terrorists. But are we proud that we're bombing children, young children too?
Would there be as many terrorists if our military wasn't so big?
That's it. Yeah. No.
Would other countries hate us as much as we hear they hate us, right? Like, would there be this negative influence of America if we were just kind of sitting here doing our own thing? I mean, sure, our capitalist culture is broken anyway, but like if we weren't so big and aggressive with our military, would people think so negatively of us?
Pope Francis, I don't know if I said this last time, but Pope Francis, I think, said, when I feed the hungry, they call me a saint, but when I ask why they're hungry, they call me a communist. And it comes back to thinking these people hate us, so we're going to try to stop that, and they call me a saint for trying to stop it. But then I ask, why do they hate us? And people get mad at me. Like literally, people where I work would be mad at me when I say, but why do these people in these other religions hate the infidel Americans? What is the reason? I think a lot of it is because of bad theology and because they are radicals. But I think some of it is because we're excessive and we use more than we need, and we don't think about the repercussions of our convenience. And I think that we need to start with that, Tony, back on that, before just bombing people and taking it to terrorists. We need to think, why do they hate us? And I think too much we hide behind it's their religion, and we don't actually look at our flaws. We look at the flaws of other people, and we don't look at our own flaws.
Mm-hmm.
So start with yourself, and then look at other people's flaws.
So are we all of the opinion it should probably be decreased?
I think we are past that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
China, for example, was 215 billion, which is our next biggest. We're at 600, so we could probably shrink a good bit and still be competitive out there if this was really if this mattered. If we were actually going to go to war with China, probably won't.
Which they're like our
and
ally
it's almost
now.
as if in this, when I say I know nothing about the military, I know nothing about the military, so filter it through that. But it just, what exactly are we doing with that money, and what are we protecting so aggressively? When I think about terrorism, it seems as if it's more of a intel thing and more of a technology. Like, you would want to be ahead of things from a technological standpoint, not so much a brute force standpoint, even though I have a whole thing about the internet too, so that's a whole other topic for another day. But I mean, I'm not sure why we spend so much.
What good is it doing?
Yeah, where is that going, and what are we protecting so aggressively? And is it just oil?
Is it just our capitalist interest?
Yeah, if it's just oil, it's time for us to start rethinking our cities and how we use oil, and can we have better public transit? Can we get with the program like Europe and have subways and better ways to navigate our cities so people don't even have to have cars? Can we stop feeding the lies that meat and dairy are the main staples of your diet when they're the single most contributor, aside from, I think, even more so than car emissions?
They're right. They're right below car emissions.
To pollution.
Yeah. Are we protecting that? Is it a whole agriculture thing? I have no idea, but it's excessive, whatever it is, and I agree.
All comes back to greed.
Yeah.
And that people feel comfortable with greed, and when that's all you know, then you defend it with all you have. And I think that's what we're rooted in. Convenience and greed and what's easy and what we know, and people are scared of change.
And I think one thing that people mistakenly accuse millennials of, which I hate, generational stereotypes.
Sure.
Like, that's not really a fair.
It's almost like a horoscope.
Right. But I think I guess maybe the baby boomer generation age group think they're so adamant whenever you bring up these kinds of questions. It's as if you're personally attacking them.
Right.
And it's probably just the same way we all identify with our beliefs. And so when you attack our system or our way of thinking, it feels like you're attacking us or that individual. But I think there's something about our generation, and not just our generation, but I notice my peers are asking these kinds of questions.
Right.
More so than the age of my grandparents or things like that, who, when you ask something like that, why do other countries hate us? Truly, it can't just be because we're Christian. I'm sure, or that we're not even Christian, but that
we at least put out the image that we are.
I'm sure there are some of those, but it's something about our generation that I think is going to move the needle in some way, because we want to know these. We're not afraid to ask the hard questions. I'm not.
Like, where did 24D come from? The pesticide that we spray on all of our plants, it came from Agent Orange. And what do the baby boomers of where I work at say? That Agent Orange caused birth defects and the death of children. And then they don't look at. Then when I say, yeah, but that's what they spray on our crops, and now we're having birth defects, and these children, they're like, no, we do that. It's conventional agriculture. That's the only way we can feed the world. I'm like, no, it's the same exact thing looked at through a different lens.
Yeah.
And people don't want to hear it.
It's almost like the difference is the trust in institutions.
Yes.
So I think that the millennial or whatever we
Right.
are, younger people tend to distrust institutions more. Keith and I had this conversation a lot about retirement funds. I know the right answer. I know why it makes sense. Put your money in and it'll make money over time, and in the end you'll retire a millionaire, hopefully, sure. But you're investing and putting your money into something that you don't know what you're supporting. But when I say that to family or people that are older than us, they don't really get where I'm going with that, as if it's just they don't get it. And I'm just thinking if there's an ethical congruency piece to me that's missing. Like, we can't say that we don't support war and I don't support all of these things, but yet with my dollars and my clothes and my food choices and the way I travel, none of that's aligning,
Yeah. And I think that gets into an entirely different topic.
Probably.
Yeah.
Of which we are very passionate about.
We should talk about generational differences too.
Generational differences.
Because I'll say this in defense of older generations, they went through wars and things that we didn't, right?
Right,
And so
absolutely.
from a military standpoint, they of course are like, yeah, we need a big military, but the world's changed. We haven't had a war in the shape of like a Vietnam War or a World War II in years. I mean, Afghanistan war is going on, but it's a very different type of war than it used to be. And that has always been the case. And so just because we constantly are like pumping up our budget, our defense budget, on the off chance we're going to war, we just aren't. That isn't necessarily the way the world works anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's more of economic battles and that sort of structure.
I think too, I mean, like, I would never ever claim to know more than like my grandparents or my grandpa, who has read every history book known to man, or like that. I don't think you could speak that of any of us that we don't think that there's merit to what they say. I'm always asking them things, but I do think there's something to be said about, if we want our world to be better, then we've got to start asking better questions and harder questions. And it may mean that we look at our American ideology and we go, this is kind of wrong. This is kind of concerning. Why are we doing it this way? Can we be more of a team player in any ways?
Can we make changes?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good place to close it. And I appreciate y'all coming on. This was a good conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Anytime we'll share our opinions on anything, and especially because we know really not much of what we're talking about.
And we have opinions on everything.
Opinions on
have
everything.
opinions.
That's us.
That's for sure.
So I appreciate everyone who listens, if anyone listens, and we're really thankful for you. And we'll see you soon. Talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.